How is it going, ladies and gentlemen? I am Jawbreaker and welcome to Playfur Cinema's Gone with the Fur Theater. Today's video is half fan requested and half dealer's choice. Somebody wanted me to make another topic based on Roxanne, while I wanted to do a follow-up video from Furry Girl Profile's Mona. Three things they have in common. They were both created by Disney, they're both goofy girls, and they were both the love interests for the rebooted Goofy Jr., Max. Oh right, there is one more thing they have in common. They were both characters who were very short-lived, especially Mona. If you've ever had the chance to take a look at my Scrapped Furry Girl Profiles video, 2 years ago I wanted to do a mega project on all the main Goofy girls of the Disney franchise. And within that video I spoke about how all Goofy girls have one thing in common with both Mona and Roxanne as well. They're also very short-lived. Let me put it this way. Nowadays, if your name is not at least Minnie Mouse or Daisy Duck, or if you are not at least a Disney princess, then chances are, as a Disney female, you will not be immortalized within the franchise. But truth be told, it's not solely so much a Goofy Girl issue as it is a cartoon female issue in general. Cartoon females usually tend to not be as big as their male counterparts. Unless of course they were supposed to be the main character of a series themselves. Though that's not strongly the case anymore as it was probably 20 years ago. You are still more likely to see Pepe Le Pew on his own more often than you are to see his love interest, Penelope Pussycat, who I am very sure has never had a solo cartoon away from him. But when it comes to Disney, Disney has a bit of a track record of creating characters who were supposed to be throwaways that ended up becoming diamonds. When I say diamonds, I mean they could have been worth so much more than what they were supposed to be. And in my personal opinion, a good number of those goofy females were potential diamonds. Looking back at Debbie for example, I can honestly say she was one of those throwaways that ended up being a potential diamond because it was so easy to fall in love with her. She only showed up once in Leader of the Pack, and she showed that she wasn't just a cute face, she could also kick your ass as well. And not only that, she also showed that she was just as cunning as her cousin Max. But Debbie's circumstances was being a plot character, meaning she was only there to advance the story and nothing more. But I guess there simply just wasn't enough room for any more redheads besides Peg and Pistol. Debbie's issue was also Penny Packer's issue during Goof Troop. Now Penny Packer was a potential love interest for Goofy. Now unlike Debbie, Penny Packer was a one-time character whose role was mediocre and pointless. A one-time character who barely shows up in her episode and then towards the end drops a potential hint that her and Goofy might end up being more. But nothing ever became of that because she was never seen again. And then when the second Goofy movie came out, that ruled her out altogether because during that movie, Goofy ended up dating a librarian named Sylvia. As a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, Goofy proposed to her. But as you might have guessed, she only showed up once, only to advance the movie plot. I'm a big fan of Goof Troop in general, and I enjoy what they did for the character of Goofy. But the inconsistencies that came with that series really bothers me. It's a show that didn't even appreciate its two main females, Peg and Pistol, enough to let the fans know what happened to them between a Goofy movie and extremely Goofy movie. Instead, it leaves its audience to speculate that Peg might have divorced Pete and took Pistol with her due to all the arguments they were having. But, again, that's fan speculation. Peg and Pistol might have very well still been home. Looking at the character of Lola Bunny as far as love interests go, and I like to use Lola as my measuring stick because it's easy to make so many good and bad examples using her. Say what you want about Warner Brothers sometimes because they definitely got a bad track record themselves. After Warner Brothers decided that they were done with Honey Bunny, one of the main things they stayed consistent with was the character of Lola. And when you think about it, they might as well have because up to the point Lola was created, the Looney Tunes have never truly had a big female lead. But because of Space Jam, Lola became an overnight success and they stuck with her and rode that wave for 20 years. If only those same circumstances were the same for Roxanne. Now this red-headed bombshell is easy to fall in love with as well. As a matter of fact, she was the first cartoon crush for a lot of boys growing up. Roxanne did indeed have a lot of fans, and a lot of those fans wanted to see her return and watch her relationship develop some more with Max. Especially after Max made a fool of himself and almost got suspended trying to impress her, even though Roxanne already liked him in the first place. I would say Roxanne's biggest strength was being demanding, because she was definitely going to dump Max on the porch for canceling on their plans. And that's when Max has to make up a very tall lie about knowing Powerline that would not only backfire on him with her, but the entire school. Though I think we got to see more of her weaknesses than we got to see her strengths during the movie. Though I will say one of those weaknesses added a cute element to her, because whenever she was nervous, she started playing with her hair. Not to mention that old classic selfish teenager syndrome. though it wasn't that bad because it usually came out whenever Max had to break his plans with her. But besides that, she was a very accepting character. She accepted Max, and more importantly, she accepted his father, Goofy. Because when you think about it, if they can't accept Goofy, they're not worth keeping. Roxanne overall should have remained the active character. If Disney really wanted to, they could have kept Goofy as a widow and allowed Max to keep his biggest love interest. Instead, that didn't happen. They dropped the ball on her. They dropped the ball on her like so many characters before her, and they dropped the ball on her like so many characters after her. However, I will say Disney tried to do a little bit of something with her that made her the longest lasting Goofy female. But when you really get a chance to take a look at the time frame between all of her appearances, that's still not good. Roxanne did make comic appearances, but there was a year gap in between them. Her first comic book appearance was in 1995. Then after 1996, she made one more comic appearance in 1997. After 1997, however, is when things started to go downhill. For an entire 5 years, Roxanne was absent from the picture, and she wasn't even mentioned in the movie sequel. But 5 years later, in 2002, House of Mouse was still airing, a cartoon I now like to call BCCC, a big cartoon cameo clusterfuck, where you're supposed to reimagine the Disney characters as celebrities and not think that any of the villains are actually deceased. But yes, in 2002, somebody thought of Roxanne enough to have her make a cameo appearance on the show. That episode was titled Max's Embarrassing Date. This episode took place after the events of an extremely goofy movie, which opened up the possibility that perhaps Roxanne and Max were on a break while Max was in college. There are other possibilities, but this is what happens when Disney decides to not give any details. But at last, this ended up being Roxanne's farewell episode. She never made another appearance in anything else ever again. This year, as of January 19, 2017, it would be 15 years since Roxanne last made an appearance. But a mere 2 years later in 2004, Disney came out with a movie sequel, Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas. Max makes a return appearance during this movie. Now, the thing about this movie is, this becomes the last official appearance for Max. And this time, he's not with Roxanne, he's with a new girl named Mona. Remember when I said plot characters and the fact that Disney keeps creating characters that are throwaways? Mona was the pure definition of a throwaway plot character. Ooh. This movie ended up being Mona's only appearance. There are only but so many characters I have ever jabbed at on this channel. On 2 occasions I have had to jab at Mona. Now, don't misunderstand me. I actually do not hate Mona. I actually do have a teensy bit of a soft spot for her. My issue with her has always been random character, wrong placement in a spot that should have been for Roxanne. And the part that agitates me most about this is, Mona is probably only really there because the designers didn't want to deal with Roxanne's long hair. Apparently back then, creating long hair like Roxanne's was too difficult. And that's the moment you realize common sense was cut off during the making of this movie. During the events of this storyline, Max is still written to be in college. How long of a time gap in between an extremely goofy movie and House of Mouse is never clear. But what was lacking during this time was imagination. If the writers really wanted Roxanne in this movie, Roxanne would have been in this movie. Because what exactly would have prevented Roxanne from cutting her hair? Furthermore, you want to know an interesting detail about Roxanne and Mona? Not only is it agreed that they both look alike, but Roxanne's original voice actress from the first movie, Kelly Martin, also voiced Mona. So in other words, summing this all up, if there's ever any more goofy girls in the future, it's probably best not to get attached to them. As long as there is a Goofy, there is a possibility that Max might return. But the girls on the other hand, all they ever do is come, and all they ever do is go. This will not be my last time discussing the females of Goofy. Plenty of them still don't have a profile yet, and there's still plenty of things to rant on. But on one final note, I want to talk about a comment. The comment's not from this channel, by the way, it's from another video entirely. And they were talking about how everybody was upset that Max and Roxanne broken up. But he, on the other hand, had a different opinion and felt that it was more realistic that they were broken up. Because they were teenagers and barely experienced anything. And in real life, young love usually doesn't last long. To me, really, that's a perspective thing. Yes, nowadays, young love is rare, but it's not impossible. There's nothing there stopping 2 teenagers like Max and Roxanne from being together for a very long time if they really want to. It all depends on the mindset of the individuals, because if they really want that relationship to work, then they'll try harder to figure out how to make it work. Besides, this is fiction, and nothing's impossible in fiction. Well, that's it for me, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you liked today's video, please leave a like, and leave a comment, and subscribe for future videos. My name is Jawbreaker, and I thank you for watching Playfur Cinema.